Here it is, Tuesday Tidbits again. Would you believe that I used to be the announcement girl in high school? Good morning, FWCI. Anyway, I'm excited to bring you this topic. I really feel like it's building off of what we've done already with part of our communication course with Rochelle, but also giving that feedback. Hi, Margaret. It's so great to see everybody and to see some familiar names again. I love the interaction that we're able to have in using the chat function. At the top, of course, are emojis. Who doesn't love emojis? So great. Thank you so much for your good mornings. It's great to be here, and it's a beautiful day. It's sunny out. I'm excited. And I had two cute little bunnies feasting on I have thyme in my lawn, and so there they were having this morning snack. It was so cute. As a reminder who we are and our vision with WEM, our vision is that all Manitobans have access to essential skills, right? That knowledge and training in order to get our goals going, to learning, the workplace, and life. And today's topic of accountability, again, I'm sure that there'll be parts of it that you're able to shift into your quote unquote real life outside of work. We'd also like to express appreciation to the following for supporting the development of this continuous learning skills curriculum: Employment and Social Development Canada and Manitoba Education and Training. This project was jointly funded through Human Resource Skills Development Canada and Entrepreneurship Training and Trade. And if you require more information, of course, visit our website, wem.mb.ca, or contact info@wem.mb.ca. Now, accountability in the workplace, full disclosure, a lot of, when I was researching this topic, I sunk my teeth into crucial accountability. Some of you may be familiar with Crucial Conversations by the same people. And guys, if you're not, this is your homework. Crucial Accountability is a great book. It's an easy read. The way that it's laid out, having different authors, you can hear the different voices. But what I loved about it was how easy it was to grab the concepts and then apply them. And so, honest to goodness, putting this webinar together was kind of challenging because there's so many great things and different concepts to look at. So again, Crucial Accountability, write it down, grab it, ebook it, whatever you need to do. I would say as a leader, for any leader, this is a must-have in the library for sure. So today, looking at how we define accountability, how do you currently resolve violated accountability? And this is some of the language they use in the book. I love the wording. How do you currently resolve violated accountability? Isn't that so awesome? Who are you accountable to? How do you hold others accountable? And how would an increase of accountability affect your organization? So we'll just pause for a split second here on this slide. And I don't know, I'm just that kind of weird person where I feel like there's, in a slide like this, there's probably one or two questions that are the only questions you can see. They're jumping right off the page. And so take note of that. And yeah, consider what we have for you today and how we can apply some of these concepts and principles to your workplace. There it is, big picture, right? It was trying to load. Personal accountability, now how we define this, right, is the belief that you are fully responsible for your own actions and consequences. Anybody have teenagers? It's a choice, a mindset, and an expression of integrity. I feel that each one of us in our lives have maybe felt this and known this, and then at other times maybe have forgotten it or purposely forgot it. That personal accountability is the belief that you are fully responsible for your own actions and consequences. It can be a hard one to swallow, right? Especially when we know we're wrong, or if you're a prideful person like I am, or ego's gotten in the way. Accountability can and should be learned. We know it's not only the foundation for a successful life, but a prerequisite for happiness. And how many of you would agree with that? Something that can be learned and should be learned. And if we're not learning it, or if we're not seeing it learned in our organizations or our homes with our families, it's something that definitely we should be looking into. It's funny, we could have, I wish we were all in a room together and we could discuss this openly about accountability in business, accountability in politics. Well, maybe you consider that business. Accountability in friendships and family, with a stranger, um, with service people, right? It is a foundation for a successful life, but also, like we said here, a prerequisite for happiness. If you want, throw your idea in the chat as to why. Why would accountability be a prerequisite for happiness? That's my question to you. Clarity, perhaps, trust, all of the things. Yeah, Chantal, I'm with you. Absolutely. It's a major contributor to trust. And the other word that's screaming in my mind is integrity, right? We walk the walk, talk the talk, do the things. Oh, loving this. Safety is created when there's integrity. Puts me in the driver's seat, being responsible for my own life. Yes, thank you. Totally agree with that. And most of you know, I could preach about trust all day long, all over the place, right? Yes, thanks, Cindy. And how trust and communication, they are hand in hand. And the same thing is true with giving feedback, like we've talked about, and of course with accountability. So what's this all about, the what? In their book, Crucial Accountability, they talk a lot about the what and the how. And so we're going to look at both of those in a tiny version here, the what. So the question is, what violations should you actually address? And how do you choose which problems you want to discuss? Okay, there are times where we probably have a huge stack that we want to discuss, all of these violations, accountability violations that have happened. But which ones should we actually address? And as we learned in feedback, we don't want to have a stack of stuff. We want to pull out the ones that are of most value. So how do you choose which problems you want to discuss? What's my question to you guys? How do you choose which problems you want to address when you're dealing with an accountability violation? Are they the ones that cost us money? Are they the ones that cost us our reputation? Perhaps we've had excuse me, a bad run-in with a customer or something like that. Maybe it's an internal customer. Yes, Diane, the impact on the team, absolutely. Taking a look at what's happening. And I'm thinking to one of the short courses I'm currently working on as a project is on stress management, and how right, how accountability works in with stress management as well. If we're saying that it brings happiness to be accountable and to have this transparency and clarity, then that's exactly it. We want to work on the problems that are going to impact the team, ourselves, our stress. Business needs, right? Feelings versus productivity. I love that. You will have to decide if you're going to say anything. Now, there's a big difference between sweeping a problem under the rug. We've maybe touched on that before, how sometimes it feels like we're going to need to get a larger rug because it's all lumpy from sweeping things under. And this idea that if we're going to say anything, that we better be prepared to say it in a way that will reach the person, so that it's a focus on behavior versus personality. I love this too, Margaret. Yeah, criteria is based on values of the company and the organization, mental and physical health of employees, and achieving those goals. Absolutely. And that's why, just in this moment, thinking about stress management and how deeply stress management is tied to all of these topics, especially this one today. So deciding if we're actually going to say anything. How many of you have just let things slide? You can show me with thumbs up or however, whatever emoji. If you agree with this, you've just let things slide so as to not stir the pot for a variety of reasons. Whether it's just, it's in the past now, we are moving forward, we're just letting it go. And there are times, I don't know, in the immortal words of Kenny Rogers, You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, right? Know when to walk away and know when to run. I will pause on that. But it's true. We need to decide if we're actually going to say anything. So what happens? You speak up and run the risk of causing a whole new set of problems, or you remain silent and run the risk of never solving the problem. And I believe that there will be cases where we will be silent and know that that was the best thing to do in the moment, but recognize, and wow, we need another 3-hour session on conflict resolution, right? To recognize what is your natural default setting when it comes to dealing with conflict. Are you an attacker? Do you fight back? Are you a collaborator? Do you like to compromise? Are you accommodating? Or are you an avoider? Yeah. In some situations, actions speak much louder than words. I would say all situations, right? We know that in communication that our actions, our body language does speak the loudest. So consider that. Are we speaking up and making another pile of problems, or do we remain silent? And really, that's a good point, Cindy. Silence is acceptance. It definitely can be. Yep, I would agree with that. So back to the what. Choosing what is key in solving accountability issues. So what is it that we're going to focus on? Trying to solve the wrong problem means you don't really get the resolution you need. So if we think about problem solving, we could list a whole bunch of symptoms, but that's not the actual problem. And the one thing we want to avoid with accountability is that very same thing, that we're attacking the symptoms of the issue, of the accountability issue, and not ever really getting to the root cause. I've seen in workplaces where it seems on the outside that we've got a people issue. The people aren't getting along. There's low morale. There's communication issues. There's this and that. And really, sometimes those issues come down to what's the word? Not productivity. Guys, come on. Policy, procedure. There's the word. We got to go through the dictionary. Oftentimes what we see is a procedure issue, but we focus on the people because it's juicier and we can attach a name or a department to it. So being careful when we're looking at solving accountability issues that we're getting to the actual issue and not just those symptoms. I love this, Chantal. Sensitivity is also important when evaluating the approach on how to be accountable. Absolutely. So, question. Are you constantly discussing the same issue in your workplace? Anybody find that where you keep landing on the same thing? We're going back to the same issue? Or do we have a whole bunch of issues that we get to go through? Yeah, a few of us, right? And if so, why? Why are we constantly discussing the same issue? Is it a training issue? Is it a policy or a procedure problem? Is it because we haven't actually gotten to the root cause? And thank you for your honesty and vulnerability in this group. I appreciate that. The question is, what could lead a person to act with less accountability? How many of you have a friend, let's say it's outside of work, it could be a friend inside of work, I suppose, where all of a sudden we're seeing some really weird behavior, that there's something that they've done that they wouldn't normally do. And forgive me for getting personal. I had this, you guys are now my therapy group. Sunday morning, I got a phone call from my uncle. So my uncle is my dad's younger brother, and my dad's been gone for 17, 18 years. So when my uncles call, which is very few times throughout the year, maybe once or twice a year, I feel really special. And so the phone call came thinking that it was 8:30 in the morning. And I was like, oh, my uncle thought of me for Mother's Day. And no, what it was, why didn't you include me in on this email? We're having there's a company that's trying to build on our lake, and why didn't you include me on this email? And just tore a strip out of me that I wasn't being inclusive. And I thought, where is he right now? This would be a great class for him, because the truth is, I consider myself to be a very inclusive person. And I wish he would have thought, what could lead a person to act with less accountability? Why would Carrie not include me on that email? And the truth is, I didn't think about him. I thought that maybe his daughter would have done that. And so I think we can see this sometimes in work. Why wasn't I included on that project? Why didn't I find out this information? And when we typically see, um, this usually normal behavior from someone, and then all of a sudden they do something that shows less accountability or that, results in conflict of some sort, wouldn't it be great if we stopped and went, I wonder what's happening here? Why would this person all of a sudden do something that wasn't quote unquote normal behavior for them? And I really think that we could save ourselves a lot of headache and hassle if we approach things with curiosity. And so the question, how does curiosity fit in when handling accountability at work? What do you guys think? How do we use curiosity when dealing with difficulties or these accountability violations at work? Yeah, definitely self-awareness. And don't worry, guys, I turned my conversation around with my uncle and we left on an I love you note. So definitely asking questions, finding out, stop the assumptions, right? We all know what that means. We're assuming things. And definitely being able to see from another person's perspective. When really we want to just yell and say, what the heck were you thinking? We change that tone and maybe even the wording and say, that's an interesting way to look at things. Yeah, it doesn't feel invasive or combative. Absolutely. And Chantel and even Francis, I would say knowing our people, understanding their communication style will make a world of difference so that we know how to approach them, that we're setting aside our own default conflict style, our own default communication style, and approaching them with this curiosity. And not in a false or fake way, but in an actual, genuine, hey, what happened here? It's kind of interesting. I never considered that before, right? So activate curiosity and tell yourself the rest of the story. This is a huge part of this book, guys. I'm not, maybe I should work for them, right? Because I'm just like all over it. But this was a huge part of it. Tell the rest of the story. We're so good. We're so good at putting in what we think happened. So instead, ask why a reasonable, rational, and decent person would do what you've just seen, as well as if you yourself are playing a role in the problem. Why would they have done that? I wonder what's happening. Did they forget? Instead of taking things so personally, like it was a personal attack on us, let's ask ourselves why they would have done that. Why would a reasonable, rational, and decent person have done what they've just done? Life changing. So I feel like we've touched on this. How would approaching a difficult situation with curiosity help? You guys said it, reframing things, making sure it doesn't feel combative. And in that way, it's finding out. And instead of a personal attack, we're leaning towards problem solving. And so for a moment, just consider any changes to your current methods you would have to make in order to approach a difficult situation with curiosity. You think about a situation I had many years ago, like a gazillion years ago, was working in Shaw Cable in Calgary in the business office. Now, this is before the internets and people paying, online. People would actually physically come in with a bill and maybe their debit card if they had gotten one or write a check or whatever. So I went in there and I'm noticing that the place was huge, like it was packed with people, right? There wasn't room to breathe. And I'm looking over at my cute little coworker Heather, sweetest, kindest person in the world. And, we're just doing our best to process the orders and whatnot. All of a sudden, like a CBC Sunday night movie, the door flies open and here's a guy zoomed into his face, red-faced, upset, vibrating. Okay. And so I'm watching the lineup and noticing, am I going to get this guy? oh no, this is awesome. Heather's going to get them. So I'm trying to go through and deal with my customer in a professional and whatever kind of manner, right? But at the same time, we're all watching how she's dealing with this fellow. And he's yelling and pointing and slamming and almost incoherently. And she says, "Sir, could I look at your bill, please?" And she grabs the paper. She looks at the bill. She looks at him, looks at the bill, looks at him, quietly places the paper down, and she's not making a scene. And all of us still have our eyes to the side trying to watch, right? She turns the paper around, presses it towards him, and says, with the kindest voice in the world, "Sir, this is your TELUS bill for your telephone. We're Shaw Cable. We're your TV, your cable company." And I honestly, guys, that was like over 20 years ago, and it stayed with me how she handled that situation. She handled it with a little bit of curiosity. Why would this person be so upset? What's happening here? And my hopes and dreams are that he left after he morphed into a snake and the sea parted and he slithered out the door. My hope was that he would approach his next target, which would be TELUS, I'm assuming, with a bit more kindness and tact. And so when we're approaching those difficult situations, maybe toning down a bit, taking the breath. Yeah, keep professional relationships. Ah, so tricky sometimes, hey? Dale Carnegie said it best. He said, "We're not creatures of logic, but creatures of emotion." And often, I think some of you have touched on this. Oh, yeah, the love languages, absolutely. How we attack things with emotion instead of logic. And it can be so easy to do. And I think that this statement, if we all went for matching tattoos, I think this would be it. As a reminder that when I feel like I'm acting irrationally, that I am acting with emotion brain and not logic brain. I'm reading a little book right now called, I can't tell you what it's called, but it's Let That Stuff Go. And part of it is this idea of simmering down the chatty brain and focusing on the observing brain. And we do that a lot in yoga class to bring mindfulness. And it's true, if we can slow down, the lists and the chattiness so that we can focus on what is actually happening. So the first time an infraction occurs, talk about the content. What just happened? So this next section, CPR, content, is the C. 2, the pattern. So the P, CPR, pattern, content and pattern. Talk about the pattern. Here's an example. This is the second time this has occurred. You agreed it wouldn't happen again, and I'm concerned I can't count on you to keep a promise. Ooh, big girl language, but it's clear, it's straightforward, and it's to the point, and we're talking about the pattern. It's not an attack, it's a pattern. So pattern issues acknowledge that problems have histories. Isn't that awesome? Think about it. Pattern issues acknowledge that problems have history, and histories make a difference. I think we could see that if we all peeled back and looked at our own lives. Frequent and continued violations affect the other person's predictability and eventually harm respect and trust. Has anybody experienced this? When we have frequent and continued violations, right, we feel like we can't trust them, and maybe even, our respect is diminished. I am a believer that we always give respect, and what changes is our trust level with them. So it's easy to miss the pattern and get stuck in debating the content. Isn't that a truth? Think about it. The last time that you had to have one of these big girl or big boy conversations, did we get stuck debating the content and miss the pattern? I hope that we're able to turn that around if that's the case. So we notice patterns of behavior and find ways to address it before moving back to the original topic. Do any of you do this where you work on the pattern as well? Or are we focused on the content? Because I know pre-crucial accountability, I would be stuck on content. I'd be stuck on the what. And it is important to address the what, but to move forward. So we said CPR, here's the R, relationship. What's happening to us? right? Relationship concerns are far bigger than either the content or the pattern. Thanks, Margaret. Yeah, we don't want to underestimate, as Francis is saying, anyone's intelligence or perception. The issue is not repeatedly broken promises, it's that the string of disappointments has caused you to lose trust. Anybody manipulate their children with this? I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. You start to doubt their competence and their promises, and that's also affecting the way that you treat one another. And again, that big word trust and integrity starts to pop up. So we look at it this way. Here's an example. This is starting to put a strain on how we work together. I feel as if I have to nag you and keep you in line, and I don't like doing that. I guess my fear is that I can't trust you to keep the agreements you make. Content, pattern, and relationship. So we look at the consequences. What are the consequences to me, to our relationship, to the task or other stakeholders? Right? Those are all the consequences we need to consider when we're dealing with accountability violations. So if you think about it, and this is just an internal question for you, what are the consequences people face for violating accountability issues at your organization? Do we have our head in the sand? Are we attacking them head on? Are we using our emotional intelligence when we're dealing with it? Maybe there's just a set way, a set of rules on how we deal with those infractions. Another huge part, and we've touched on this in communication class, is intention. It's a mental state that represents commitment to carrying out an action. We don't always know what people are thinking. We don't always know intention. But intention involves mental activities such as planning and forethought. So look at it this way. This may be familiar to some of you. How do we know what someone's intentions are? The truth is we don't. We don't know. We have thoughts and intentions, which are way inside. Then we have feelings. And then we have the behaviors. So we don't know what people are thinking. We don't know how they're feeling. All we have is this outer layer of behaviors, words, tone, and body language. And definitely, I agree with you guys. We need to ask and definitely avoid assumptions, which is back to Dale. I think some of us, focusing on that emotional brain makes it tricky to do that. We work on finishing the story, right? So take a look in the mirror. In holding others accountable, we ourselves need to be in the right frame of mind. And we touched on that with feedback, right? When we're giving feedback or having accountability conversations, we ourselves need to be in the right frame of mind. Taking a look at yourself is the first step in holding others accountable. Now, we could give a million different examples on, the importance of walking the walk and talking the talk and all of that. The truth is, though, that this is a challenging thing when we feel that the other person has let us down. And again, I think it comes back to emotional versus logical. If we're focused on how it harmed us, right? What it's doing to the team, if it's destroying trust. And so the invitation, and a great way to do this when we're talking emotional intelligence, which is a huge part of this, right, is journaling and being honest with yourself. And even writing out some of these things. Do a data dump from your mind on how this has affected you so that you can approach the situation in a clear and rational way. Francis, this is an amazing point. Many problems can be avoided in the first place or nipped in the bud by giving very clear expectations and responsibilities. Heck, yes, that is so true. And as leaders, that is exactly what our job is, to bring those clear expectations and responsibilities and to have created an environment of trust where people can ask us those questions, right? Diane, you said we find out a person's intention by asking. Have we created a safe space for our employees and for our team members to come to us and ask us the quote unquote stupid questions? Or anything, right? To be able to have those clear expectations and transparency. Personal accountability requires mindfulness, acceptance, honesty, and courage. And if there's nothing else that you take away from our session today, my hope is that it's this, that it really does start with you. You know, a lot of cheesy things could be said right now. I'll try to zip it for that. But recognize your part in holding others accountable starts with you in holding yourself accountable. Mindfulness, acceptance, honesty, and courage. Thank you so much, everyone, for your chat, for your emojis, things like that. I love the interaction. I feel like we can, we gain so much from one another. And, I'm a super cheesy person, but I say that with all sincerity of heart. Um, and thanks, Rochelle, for being here to manage our chat and such. Feedback is always encouraged. We love it. We love the good. We love the bad. We take them both. So thank you again, everybody. Go forth and have an amazing day. We'll see you next time.